So I started with the bracers, and the first thing I did was I cut 2 ovals out of an imitation leather jacket that I got at the second-hand shop. And then you're just going to lay one oval on top of the other, leaving an inch gap at the bottom. And so then you'll just sew the 2 pieces together all the way around. The stitching on the bottom side actually isn't holding anything because once you stack the 2 pieces, this one's a little bit longer, so this is just for decorative purposes. And the stitch line here is nothing, I just didn't have enough flat leather in my jacket to do a second circle. And so here is the close-up of the stitch line all the way around. And so then when you put it on, you'll just wrap it around your arm. You want to do it at a little bit of a diagonal so that you end up with the point covering your elbow. So if your leather or imitation leather is the wrong color, you're going to want to paint it brown. And you can do this with any normal acrylic craft paint because they're flexible, so they'll work on both leather and imitation leather like I'm using here. Mine was a little red, so I wanted to paint it a darker brown. And so when you're painting it, you just really want to make sure that you rub it into the leather or the fake leather. You want it to be a really smooth paint job, and that way it'll change the color, but it won't change the texture, so it'll still look like leather when you're done with it. And so here it is all painted brown. Next, you get yourself some gold acrylic paint and a thin paintbrush to paint the design on the bracers. If you look at a picture on the internet, it's the easiest way. It doesn't have to be exact, just something that looks rather elvish. So basically you end up with double lines on the lower oval and single lines on the upper oval. Now in the movie, Legolas had hook and loop closures to close his bracers, but I just simplified it and used Velcro. So I put 3 pieces of Velcro on the outside of the bracer, and then the corresponding 3 on the inside so that the 2 just close right together. And if you find your bracers aren't stiff enough, you can just hot glue a little Pellon on the inside of them. So for the tunic, you're going to start by cutting the green overlay pieces, and I do have a free pattern for this at thewoodlandelf.com/pattern/Legolas. You're just going to cut 2 of each piece, one facing each direction. So the material I'm using here is just a dark green suede. It was an old suede skirt I found in a second-hand shop, so it's just a dark green suede that you're going to be using for the top part of the tunic. So for the under part of the tunic, you're going to want to cut 2 pieces like this. And the easiest way to do this is to cut a long rectangle. The top will reach from the center point of your shoulder, and then the inner point will reach down to just above your knee. And then you're just going to cut the rectangle off so that it goes up as it goes towards your hips, because this will be the side that is over your hips. And you want it as wide so that this will be the center of your chest, and then this will come right around to the center of your side. The armhole, you'll just measure up to where the bottom of your arm starts, and then you'll cut in just a few inches and then cut straight up. And then right in the center, you're going to cut at a diagonal. And you'll figure that diagonal by using the diagonal line from the dark pieces that you already cut. Just lay that over the top and then cut that up at the same diagonal as the dark piece. And then for the back side of the tunic, you'll cut 2 more pieces the exact same shape as the 2 for the front, with the main exception being instead of cutting diagonals at the neck, you'll just cut out a little curve to go around the back of your neck. And so then 2 back pieces, you'll lay right sides together, wrong sides up, and then you'll just sew them together down the center line. That'll be the longer line. So then for the front pieces, you're going to put the 2 dark pieces on, and then you'll fold one over the other so that the right sides are together, and then you'll just sew right up the center line, and you'll stop right there, right as they start to go out diagonally. And you want to make sure on both the front and back pieces that somewhere around just below where the waist starts, you want to leave that open all the way down so it's split. So here are the front and back pieces of the tunic sewn together down the centers, and you can see the splits left open in the center at the bottom of each piece. Next, you're just going to fold the dark green pieces of the tunic down out of the way, and then you're going to lay the back piece of the tunic over the front piece of the tunic and sew together the shoulders at the tops, and then the top 2 inches of each side. Just going to sew those together, the top 2 inches, leaving the rest open all the way down. And so here it is once that's sewn together. And so here you can see the top 2 inches sewn together, and then you're just going to poke holes every couple of inches all the way down until you reach about where the split is in the center, and then you're going to leave the rest open from there. Just like that, and then you're just going to put lacing down the sides. And so then here is the lacing down the side, and for the lacing I just cut a long strip of the same dark suede that I used for the front of the tunic, and I just laced that through the holes that I cut. And again, you want to leave the same amount that you have in the front open so that all the sides are split evenly, and then you just tie it off on the inside. Then just put the half-finished tunic on, and you just want to pin the back part of the green overlay so that it's tight over your shoulders. This is kind of hard to show when I'm wearing it, but you just want to pin it so it's very tight against your shoulders on the back side. This is actually a lot easier to show when I'm not wearing it. So this is the front, and it gives it a nice smooth finish when you pin the back. And so then here's what the back looks like when it's pinned. Basically, you just fold the rounded part over the sleeve part, and you just pin that together. It's all one piece, but you just fold it over and pin it so that it's smooth on your shoulder. This is why it's easier to do it when you're wearing it, so you can make sure it's smooth. And then the two pieces in the middle just kind of connect right at the center seam. Then you'll just sew the entire dark green suede, front and back. You're just going to sew along the edges to the lighter green suede. Legolas' real tunic had this blanket stitched all along the edges, but I'm just going to use my sewing machine and use a zigzag stitch because it's faster. Go all the way around the entire thing. And if you're going to be wearing the cloak, then you don't really have to worry about how great the pinning looks on the back anyway, because it'll just be covered up with the cloak. And so then here you can see that the stitching is barely noticeable. So for the design on the front, I just took some white puffy paint and started making some elvish-like swirls. And so then here is what it looks like once it's dry, and you just mirror the two sides. And in the movie, Legolas also had the little lines on his sleeves and on the back side, but since those are going to be mostly covered by the cloak, I didn't bother doing them. But if you're not going to be wearing the cloak, then you might want to put the swirls on there. Crabbing from Dunland!